friends, hope you all are doing well today. Please subscribe to this channel and let us join hands together, pray for the evangelization of the whole world and healing of nations. Friends, we see here today we are going to meditate about the prophet Elijah and great prophet of Israel. We see in 1 Kings chapter 17 life of Elijah the prophet. He was a true man of God and who spoke by the power of God. We see that he was a man like us with his fears, his longings, and his nature, and he had full confidence in the power of God. So please read 1 Kings chapter 17 onwards, where you will see Elijah, his life, and how God worked through him. He had confidence in the power of God and to bring rain on his word. We see that God fed Elijah many times, sent angel and gave food, sent angel to guide him, lead him, feed him. We see that Elijah obeys God, goes to widow's house at Zarephath, and we see that the widow just had a jar of flour and a jar of oil. But Elijah asked the widow to give the first part of food to him, and that the jar of oil will never dry and the jar of flour will never empty. And as per Elijah's command, the widow obeyed, and there was food, and there was the lack in their house was met. We see that Elijah had compassion on the people of God. He was humble in his dressing, in talking. He was a genuine human being. We see Elijah's life. He had a passion to work for God. His ministry, his great work, great command over, and his faithfulness to God. And he shows that in the evil times at that time, he was called by God to stand up when all people were against him. He stood up alone with the God of Israel. We see that his life was threatened by evil Queen Jezebel. But that time he chose to talk with God. He cried out to God in various situations, shared his fears with God, and he did not know what to do. But God delivered Elijah from the hands of evil Queen Jezebel. And Jezebel got a fearful end. She had threatened Elijah's life, but she lost her own life. We see here that also Elijah brought the dead woman, the widow's dead son, to life. It was something that was impossible, but when Elijah cried to God and called God to let the boy's life return, he prayed for the impossible situation. Similarly, God calls us to stand as prophet Elijah today, stand for him. Even in our human nature, trust God's promises. Have unshakable faith in God. And we see how Elijah calls to the people that follow God or Baal. And when Elijah called fire from heaven to burn the sacrifices on the altar, the prophets of Baal failed to do that. Elijah succeeded, and after that killed all the prophets of Baal. He challenged the prophets of Baal to call on their God, and that the real God should answer by fire. That God will be God. And when God of Israel showed himself up, sent fire from heaven and burnt the sacrifices, Elijah commanded the people to slaughter and kill all the prophets of Baal because they failed to call Baal to bring fire from heaven. Then we see that Elijah informs Ahab about the coming rain, and by the power of God, he ran ahead of Ahab's chariot. Further, Jezebel threatens that by this time tomorrow I will make your life like that of the dead prophets of Baal. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. 1 Kings 19:3, he ran for his life and he prayed to God, I have had enough, Lord, take my life. He was going to give up, but God strengthened him by sending an angel, gave him food. And after that we see angels supplied him food and he was called to anoint kings. He saw God. He went to Horeb, mountain of God, and he was commanded by God to anoint kings. Further, Elijah anointed Elisha to succeed him as the next prophet. We see in 2 Kings chapter 2, Elijah was taken up to heaven. So we see a successful life of Elijah. So Elijah's life calls each one of us to stand strong with God, to speak the powerful words, to stay connected with God and be prophets today. Command to the problems to go away. As Elijah was the same nature as us, stand faithful to God, even if others are failing, even if the evil times are there. Lead successful lives. Stand up with God's people. Be faithful to God in our deeds and tell others about God and turn others to God. And also work miracles and wonders. Trust that God will do the impossible. So may God bless each one of us. Subscribe to this channel and continue to pray for evangelization. God bless.